It's even more the case with Minecraft because it really does owe its success to the community.
Yes, absolutely. It was definitely a grassroots and like one of those first like indie projects that just came out and said anyone can do this.
Yeah. And and that one it's also interesting in that most games have a fairly specific target group. Well, this is a game that's really going to appeal to people who like turn-based strategy or shooters or whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas this, there are people. I play Minecraft. I played it before I started the job.
Right.
My kid plays it. Our demographic is pretty much 4 to 94, I think.
Yep.
And so it's interesting having that kind of range to appeal to, but also to get feedback from.
Yeah, and that's also one of those interesting things I've heard on other projects, other live projects, where they're just like, oh, we have this feature ready to go, but we're not entirely sure about it, how stable it is, what players are going to think about it. It may not be like a major gameplay feature, but it's something that players are going to interact with and they're going to have some feeling towards.
Yeah.
So they'll roll it out to a live server, but only to a small subsample of people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then it's like, okay, you're starting to get some of that usability testing without even exposing it to a huge group of players that are going to be paying money for your game. So it's an interesting way of saying, is this stable enough? Mm-hmm. How many bug reports are we getting about this over a week when we display it to 100 people?
Yeah.
Okay, it still looks good within margins. What's it like within 1,000? Oh, this critical thing came up. We're going to stop the rollout here. We'll fix it, address it, and then let that go, and then kind of have this really organic rollout.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's another way of taking advantage of like a live population without necessarily having to roll it out to everyone and go, oops, we made a mistake. Sorry, everyone. Here, have free stuff.
Yeah. It's also, one of the interesting changes I've seen of the industry over the years is, back in the day, well, before the internet, God, I'm old. Once it was sent out and on the shelf, you couldn't change anything.
Yeah.
And, you didn't fix bugs. What you shipped was what you lived with. And particularly strange, well, a little later on, particularly strange if you're coming up with a new genre of game or, something that there really isn't a solidified target audience to get feedback from. And, sorry, dogs. And I can remember with actually Starsiege Tribes, we put that out as I believe, online multiplayer only game.
Yep.
Now, granted, a lot of that was because we needed to ship a game and the AI just wasn't working worth a damn. But we're just like, okay, let's send that out to market. Wow, I wonder how that's going to be received because there wasn't really a huge established market for that at the time.
Especially with those team sizes. Like most of the dedicated servers were running 32 players or bigger. 32 players to 64. But if I actually, USC ran a server with 256 players. That's how good that game was for mid to late 90s.
Yeah, 99? Wait, 98, 99? Oh, hell, I don't
Something like
Somewhere
that.
In there, yeah.
To this day, Tribes and Starsiege Tribes are one of my favorite IPs out there.
Oh,
so
excellent.
My brother and I were just ruminating on how good that game was just the other day.
Oh, nice. It also, that's one of my favorite projects to have worked on and also has some of my favorite industry stories from.
Like what?
Well, so it started out, originally it was going to be more of a like a 4-person co-op game. More of a Diablo kind of
Wow,
game.
that changes everything.
Yeah, that, when we were first thinking about it, but we wanted it to be science fiction and tie into what at the time was the Earthsiege product line. Then we renamed it to Starsiege. But so early on, I was one of the few, well, I think probably the only science fiction nerd involved in it. So I was kind of pitching some different ideas. I think the original one I was pitching was more of a kind of a steampunk meets far future distant world kind of thing. So it had a lot of steampunk and gothic kind of ornamentation, but still high tech. And I went through different ideas of different science fiction genres and working up concepts and pitching them. But at one point I worked up some concepts of more of a science fantasy, more of a John Carter of Mars kind of thing. And I was explaining to I believe he was the design lead at the time, explaining what John Carter of Mars was. And yeah, it was written by Edgar Rice Burroughs and so on. He said, "Oh, so that's really interesting. Do you think this Edgar Rice Burroughs guy would maybe do some writing and design for us?" And totally straight-faced, I explained, well, he's a very successful writer. I think he would be out of our price range, but also he's been dead for 50 years. So I'm thinking probably not. But it was, yeah. But it was interesting seeing it evolve over time.
Yeah.
And being a big comic book and science fiction and anime nerd.
Oh yeah.
I eventually brought it around to more the battle suits and so on.
Yeah.
What we shipped with.
To this day, I could probably find a picture of my brother or myself having our picture taken in front of our computer where we have either the Children of the Phoenix or the Diamond Sword logos as our background on our PCs.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. There was somebody, one of the players even sent us a picture. They got, I think it was a Blood Eagle tattoo.
Nice.
Yeah, it's like, wow. That's nerdy on a whole new level.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I could probably, I kept a whole, with the EB Games or the Electronics Boutique, big boxes in the early 2000s, late 90s, or all throughout the 90s. I cut off the cover of a lot of those boxes. I still have my StarCraft 1. I have Arcanum.
Yep.
I have,
I
think I have Tribes. I think I even cut out the back of the Tribes box.
Oh, nice.
So I still have those probably laying around. I need to get you and Scott Rudy and Scott Bandy to sign them.
Oh,
and
yeah.
There you go. That would be.
I still have a box out in my garage labeled Old Games, and where I've got the boxes. I think I've pulled the discs out and have them stored elsewhere, but all of the boxes from some of the early 90s games. And yeah, someday I'll clean my garage and do something with those.
Probably find a good penny for some collector out there.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Add a little staff signature and boom, there you go.
Yeah.
A little piece of gaming history right there. It still strikes me as odd and kind of crazy that PC gaming really started in the 90s.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, altogether, okay, that's close to 30 years ago, and things have tremendously changed since then. But at the same time, StarCraft 1 launched in something like 1998. The sequel didn't come out until closer to 2012. It was something like 10 years later, something like that. And because they didn't have the technology to tell the story that they wanted.
Yeah.
And so when you're talking about a 30-year industry and stories aren't able to be told the way that creators want them to be told, so they're willing to put it in the vault and wait 10 years, a third of the industry's lifetime, to say now's the time to do that.
Yeah.
I can only imagine the kind of stories that designers will be making 10 years from now.
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, this is still 10 years after StarCraft, and now we're getting into engines like Crytek or the Crytek engine, and Amazon's getting in on it with Lumberyard, and we have the Unreal Engine that's been a standard for 2/3 of the games industry life. I mean, Unreal came out roughly the same time as Quake 2, Quake 3, so that's late 90s, and 2/3 of the games industry life is on PCs. And so
I'm fascinated to see where it's going. And it does seem like it's, with AR and VR and so on, obviously it's changing quickly, but it'll be fascinating to see where it is 10 years from now.
What's your gut in saying, like, this is interesting to me right now with the industry and where it's going, and where do you see it going?
Well, I don't really know. I think we will continue to see a lot of gamification of everyday activities. Even in the States, the gaming population has way increased, even in the last 10 years.
Oh, yes.
We're catching up to some of the Asian countries.
And it's no longer a nerd thing or a niche thing. It is
exactly.
It was accepted across the nation. Like the big point now is esports and streaming and people coming to terms with that shift and everything. But now it is an accepted activity to do, almost as much as like your school clubs or your school sports and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think we'll continue to see that. I think we'll continue to see more of an integration of augmented reality. Walking through here, playing a game.
Yeah.
That kind of blending of realities, as long as we can do it without walking in front of a bus.
I mean, it could even be as simple as I'm live streaming this on whatever platform, or I'm recording it as a podcast, and I'm earning points for every 5 minutes that I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Or for every time someone else who is tagged going by, who's also on that platform, I get bonus points.
Yeah.
Or name drop or anything like that, link to certain products, and it's like, okay, there's more points, there's more this, there's more that, more incentive to keep doing more, but I'm just making a recording.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff is definitely interesting. And is there something that you see going to happen within other games themselves? Oh, a bit of a traffic jam. So like gamifying within the game.
Oh, yeah, I think, and there is some of that, and I think there'll continue to be. I think we will also see an evolution in, say, microtransactions.
Yeah.
And awards or rewards in game. I also think part of that I think is driven by just the kind of the evolution in things that occupy our time. Myself as a gamer, I'm lucky if I have 15 minutes a day I can jump in and play a game. It's just, there was a time where I'm going to sit here and play Skyrim for the next 12 hours or whatever. I don't have that kind of time anymore. I have family, I've got a couple of jobs. Just so much going on. I think that we will continue to see kind of games within games, things you can jump in and do for a short amount of time, as well as obviously casual games, where you really can jump in and play, Angry Birds or something for 10 minutes and have a blast. But I do think as far as game design in general, we will continue to see an understanding that people's time is limited.
Yep.
And so, for one thing, you can't assume that, this person is going to remember where they were in this game, because, how often do you really have time to play a game from start to finish anymore? And so games, for me as a gamer, games where I have to jump in, I boot the game back up, I haven't played for several weeks, like, what was I doing?
Yeah.
And some games I think have really embraced that. Others really haven't, and I'll just kind of look at it with, slack jawed and think, oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was doing.
That friction to get back into it is definitely a hard stop for a lot of people if they can't remember what they were doing or what was important, or if so many new things have come on into the game, since a lot of games are live as services now. You get that interesting return where, do people feel comfortable actually returning?
Yeah.
Even after they've made that decision to, I'm going to try and return, are you actually enabling them to return, or are you making it more difficult for them to do that?
You also need to keep them engaged and in-game. This was a discussion I can remember having with the designers at Wargaming in Seattle. There was the idea that, well, we don't really have to explain how you play the game, because you can go out online, much like other wargaming titles, and read about how to play the game. And my point was, that might work in certain parts of the world. Here, as soon as I'm out of that game, oh look, Facebook, oh look, Twitter, oh look, literally 100 other games waiting for me to play that I've have on my list of games to play.
Or
once I'm
now
out,
that
you've lost me.
Yeah, now that you've also been engaged by them as well.
Yeah.
So it's not just like this passive interaction where it's somewhere on something that I'm going to, it's reaching back out to me as well.
Yeah.
And so that's definitely a challenge when you have that barrier of reentry.
It is, and that's always going to be a challenge to keep people in and engaged, and particularly if you're free to play, because you don't have that emotional investment that you get when you spend real world money.
Right.
It's like, I've spent $50 on this game, I'm going to take the time to learn how to play it, or if I really have to, I'll go out to a site and look this up. If it's a free to play game,
it's easy
once I'm gone,
easy
I'm
out.
probably gone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, Shawn, it was great talking with
too.
you. It was nice seeing you. Is there anything else that you want to put out there? Other projects you're working on where people might reach out to you?
Let's see, nothing really at the moment. I try to, as much as possible, make myself available to, to network, but also to say, hey, this company's looking to hire somebody. That's something about the game industry. It's so much of it is who you know to get a foot in the door anymore.
Yep.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's just the reality of the situation. But
LinkedIn a good place for you?
yeah, LinkedIn
Okay.
is always good.
All right. So if you have any questions regarding art management, reach out to Shawn Sharp via LinkedIn.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.